Hi guys, I'm Brianna Humboldt, and I just want to share with you guys how God has created me to communicate and to learn through images. And I desperately wanted to include sound, because sound is so beautiful, but I only have 4 minutes, so it's okay. But this is still pretty cool, because I believe that God communicates to us through images as well. Since the beginning of the printing press and like proliferation of written word, we've been taught to learn linearly. So when we read, then we get ideas one at a time. And so it's like, oh, Friday morning chapel. Okay, it's on Friday morning chapel. But I learn through images. And images throw a bunch of ideas all at once at you. So I could say, my hometown is on an island. And you guys are probably thinking, oh, sound, like sand and trees. Okay, that's nice. But my hometown was grossly overpopulated. So you're like, okay, so like India on an island. Okay. And I'm like, oh, but I also lived in the mountains. Okay, so now I don't know what to think. But I can show you guys an image of my hometown. Can you like zoom in on that? There you go. This is my hometown. Well, part of it. And it conveys so much in just this image. It shows how I feel about it. Like, I have pleasant memories of my hometown. It's peaceful, it's beautiful. And it shows that, yes, there's like people, yes, there's people like all over the place. You can never get away from people, but then there's also nature. And so I love images, and I believe that I learn and communicate through images, which is why I'm a film major. Film majors, thank you. I won't put that there. Okay. And furthermore, how God teaches us through images. We walk out our front door, and God's not like standing in heaven. Hey guys, I'm creative, I am strong, I'm powerful. I am, he's not just listing adjectives, he's showing us. So that at the end of the day, when we watch a sunset, we're like, oh, God, he brings peace. He's beautiful, And then when we're on vacation and we get stuck in a storm, which has happened to me, in the middle of the ocean, you're like, oh my gosh, God is so terrifying and awful, and I can't handle this, So there's this like big span of images that God gives us to show us, this is who I am. And as a filmmaker, I see that as a tool, and I want to make films and be like, hey guys, like this is what's happening in this area of the world. This is how it can be redeemed. Stuff like that, all through images. And I thank God for that He's given that gift to me. So I am created in the image of God. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Now I have to caution you. My name is Ike Sanu. I'm a sophomore film student here at Biola. I have a fear of heights, actually. It's not that I'm nervous to speak, it's just being on this stage is very frightening to me. So, I want to talk to you about my family, actually. They don't trust me with the clicker, so that's my family. So, my father's down there, I'm over there, and that's my mom in the middle. So, I'm a mixed race student here. And growing up, I always had this desire to belong. I think we all do. And for me, it was especially different and difficult in my life. So we grew up in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, very competitive. It was predominantly white, upper middle class, and I went to a high school of 2,000 students, only 3% of which were non-white. So growing up, I really only had white friends. I didn't really get the chance to explore who I was in terms of being mixed race at all. And so it was always sort of hard to fit in. I became really self-conscious of who I was. I didn't really find my own identity. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And there was just such a pressure for grades, relationships, sports, and I just didn't feel like I was ever myself. When I became a Christian my freshman year, that all started to change. I felt that God had really called me into something, and it was a family that I belonged to. And it's been a very difficult journey in terms of finding out really who I am, and coming from a culture that was so competitive and predominantly white. But then I got to Biola. I took a class called LEAD that was provided by Multi-Ethnic Programs and Development, where we just started going through the Bible and we were seeing where is race and culture in the Bible. So what I learned actually is, if you didn't know this, that the Bible is not comprised totally of white people, actually. Yeah, this was actually kind of wow. I mean, I never had really thought about that actually growing up, that, oh, there's so much race, there's so much diversity and culture in the Bible. And I had never even really been exposed to that as much. And so we're going through and we're learning all these stories, and I want to just take us to Revelation 7:9. It says, "After this I looked, and behold, a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out in a loud voice, 'Salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb.'" Now, that sounds like belonging to me. If I'm going to belong somewhere, I hope it's that. And so for me, growing up, where it was so difficult to just find where I belong, who to be with, who was loving me, who I could love, God, through Biola, has really provided me this new way to understand myself, which helps me to love better, love God better, love other students better. And I finally feel like I really belong. So my name is Ike Sanu, and I'm made in the image of God.
Humble, meek, kind, and soft-spoken. These are just a few of the words that come to mind as I reflect on how beauty has been defined to me in the context of American evangelical culture. I wasn't raised in a typical Christian household, and I actually didn't become a Christian until my freshman year of high school. So naturally, growing up, my idea of beauty was largely influenced by the media. And more often than not, the girls in the magazines and on TV really looked nothing like me. So from an early age, I struggled a lot with insecurity, and I was never content with the way that I looked. I felt like I was always lacking, and I was never enough. And so when I did become a Christian, I had this crazy idea that somehow all of my insecurities would just magically disappear. But surprisingly enough, this is not the case. And actually, when I became a Christian, those struggles further intensified. I attended predominantly white suburban churches where there was a certain standard of beauty that was glorified and promoted. And again, I did not meet that standard. So I found myself conflicted when most of the women who spoke to us about beauty in our youth group were oftentimes already beautiful themselves, physically speaking. So as a Filipino-American woman in that church environment, I didn't feel like I had anyone at church that I could confide in about my frustrations. And I experienced firsthand the pain that came as a result of favoritism and partiality. So coming to Biola was really not all that different from my church experiences. And I strongly believe that a similar standard of beauty exists here as well. And whether we choose to acknowledge that or not, there are very real privileges that come with meeting that standard of beauty. And then at the same time, there's a very real sense of pain and frustration that comes with failing to meet that standard. And I look at the standard of beauty at Biola, and internal characteristics aside, I wonder what it is that sets our standard of beauty apart from a secular understanding of beauty. Or I wonder if we've become so infiltrated by society's standard of beauty that we hold to a nearly identical viewpoint. So I was thinking one day, I'm quoting this from my Facebook status a few months ago. Here's the thought. Being beautiful does not have to mean being the acoustic guitar playing, Toms wearing, worship leading woman of God with a heart for Africa. Funny, right? But it's really true. Beauty can look a lot of different ways. And for myself, I've learned to aim for one standard, and one standard only. One in which Christ calls me to love and to celebrate all parts of my being. A standard of grace and not perfection. So yes, I am called to be humble, but I'm also called to exude confidence because I know who I am in Christ. And yes, I'm called to be meek, but I'm also called to speak up against injustice when I see it, both for myself and on behalf of those who can't speak for themselves. And as far as being soft-spoken, I've kind of thrown that one out the window because I've spent far too much of my life being silent, and my voice is a lot more valuable than I give it credit for. So I just want you to think about this. And this is something that a lot of students at Biola struggle with. So I just want you to ponder this. I am a broken girl whose brokenness has been redeemed by a God who makes all things beautiful. I'm Janelle Paula, and I'm made in the image of God. Thank you.
Hello, Biola. This is really cool and such an awesome honor to be here. So hi, my name is Asnat. I'm a senior sociology major, minoring in international development. Minneapolis, Minnesota is my hometown. Born in St. Paul. So I'm the youngest, thank you. Sweet, okay. So I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, but I'm actually the first in my family to be born in the United States and to be attending college, both on my mom and dad's side. So my parents. My mom is from Ethiopia, and my dad is from Eritrea. If you don't know, both these countries are in East Africa, and Eritrea is maybe not as familiar. It's bordering Ethiopia next to the Red Sea. And it was a part of Ethiopia, but gained its independence about 20 plus years ago from Ethiopia. So there's kind of like this awkwardness of I'm from both sides of the war. But yeah, so mostly we speak English at home, and I went to an English-speaking church. We ate burgers and ice cream. I watched cartoons like Hey Arnold. My mom could never get enough of I Love Lucy, and my dad and brothers bonded over Monday Night Football. But don't get me wrong, my family was more than proud to be Ethiopian Eritrean. Art from both countries filled my home. Injera, a delicious traditional dish, was available to eat, but more significantly, East African values such as respecting the elderly, living out deeply caring and intentional community, and the kindest hospitality even to strangers was the atmosphere that I grew up in. And so feeling proud and seeing the value in my heritage didn't come easily for me. I honestly believe that my situation was a disadvantage compared to my peers. And although my family was always very encouraging, they just didn't have the same experience as me as a third culture kid to pull from to give me advice or guide me in the process of my identity. So I had to navigate this in between, which is what a third culture kid is, living in the third culture, the mix of the two. Because I felt like I was behind trying to figure out the process, not only in the United States, for example, like seeking out and applying for college, but also in both Ethiopian and Eritrean heritage, the language I can only understand, I can't speak it. So on both ends, I'm kind of distanced from both identities, like from what I've seen in media. I didn't believe that there was value in my voice and my experience because I didn't look just American or be just Ethiopian Eritrean. I was in this in between, and I didn't think that my input would be important or adequate, and this especially came up in the college setting when I had to kind of define my identity. And it wasn't until I met students and faculty here who were like me in various ways, who defined my identity with confidence in themselves and in their backgrounds, that helped me shape my perspective and see that it was a lie from the enemy to think that I had all the learning to do and nothing to offer and give to the community. So I identify myself as Black, and so I had to see what that means, being Black in the context of the United States, and being Black in the context of my family coming from Ethiopia and Eritrea, and also being a Christian. Thankfully, all thanks to God, I now know that being Eritrean, Ethiopian, American is important in the kingdom of God. And there are aspects of God's character that I better understand because of my experience, and they're valuable to bring to the table as we strive together in the Christian community to do kingdom work, bringing in the marginalized, the oppressed, and those with marred identity. My name is Asnat, and I'm made in the image of God.
We hope you enjoyed this message. Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Learn more at biola.edu.